Hi, AJ.
How you doing?
Back to the divine life path. How do you stay on it? Like, I've been trying for the last couple of years, completely change my life, stop eating meat, stop drinking, stop smoking, and it's just not working. I keep on falling back onto it. Maybe I'm relying on myself too much. Maybe I don't pray enough, but I've been meditating, I've been seeing counselors, doing hypnotherapy, and it's just, I don't know, I really have this deep longing to change, but it just, just kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 3 steps back.
That's what it feels like to you. Yep. Do you want to talk about it? You want me to? You want to sit down?
Yeah.
No worries. You can sit down. I'll let you. Okay. For a start, what was your name again? Sorry.
Serge.
Serge, that's right. For a start, Serge, your judgment of yourself is quite severe. So, and this is a problem we have on the earth a lot too, is we judge ourselves. We notice new things in ourselves that we didn't notice before, and then we think we're really bad because we have those things. And the more we judge ourselves, the more difficult our life becomes. So one of the first things we need to stop doing is judging ourselves for having what we have. So let me imagine for a moment, here's a mirror. Here's the reflection side of the mirror, and here's me. I'm standing in front of the mirror, right? And I've got a smile on my face, right? Looking at this mirror. Now, I can stay in that space looking at the mirror, and I can ignore the reflection that's coming back at me. In other words, I can, to a large degree, particularly with my life on earth now, I can say things like, I've got this great big zit in the middle of my, pimple in the middle of my forehead there that looks big enough for a boil, and everybody's looking at that instead of my eyes, but I can ignore it. And the problem with here on the earth too, we could put a bit of makeup or something over it so that it sort of dims it as well, couldn't we? We actually finish up plastering ourselves a bit so that we don't see ourselves as we truly are. Now the point I'm getting to is, on the divine love path, we look in the mirror and we start seeing ourselves as we truly are. Right? So we're looking with this smile on our face, right? But in reality, the person who we see back is actually, wow, you're really sad, eh? Whoa, I didn't realise how sad you were. Right? That kind of feeling, you see. So as we're on the divine love path, we're connecting more to God. We're having to become more real about who we are. Now, there's a beauty in this process, actually. But it's very confronting, because we want to see this person now. We go to the mirror because we want to see how good we look right now. We want to. When you think about it, even when we go to the mirror to look at our personal appearance, we fix up anything on us that looks bad, like just because we want to look good right now. That's our feeling. And so we do all of these things, and emotionally this is what we're also doing. We have a judgment of this person that's inside of myself. Oh, he's really sad. So he could be sad, he could be afraid, he could be ashamed, he has a lot of shame, he could feel a lot of sexual guilt, right? He's got all these things going on, right? All of these things are all going on that he feels inside of himself. And I'm there looking in the mirror, and I'll go to the mirror, and I don't want to see all those things. I want to see a person's got it together, confident, hip, everyone looks up to, that kind of thing. That's what we want to see. And so what we have a tendency to do then is we have a tendency then to judge the things that you are currently judging within yourself. To judge the sadness, judge the fear, judge the shame, judge the sexual guilt, judge all of these different things that are there. When we're on the divine love path, one of the first things that we need to come to terms with is when we judge, we're actually doubling up our emotional processing work. Because we've got to deal with our judgment and then we get to the emotion. So, for example, what I do is I see, wow, actually every time I walk down the street, I'm walking with my girl, but actually I'm noticing all these other girls all the time, right? So I notice myself doing that. And then the next step is I go into judgment about that. right? Wow, boy, what kind of sleazebag am I, you know? And I go into that place, which doesn't help me get to the emotional reason as to why I'm looking at all these girls in the first place. All it does is put extra emotion on top of me, which actually will make me sadder. So oftentimes what we do on the process is we see these things that we really are, and then we judge them, and that makes us feel even worse than we felt when we didn't see them. Does that make sense? And of course we are going to feel worse because we've now got the additional emotion. Besides these, we're additionally judging ourselves for having these. Now, God doesn't judge you for having those things. God knows that the majority of them entered you in your childhood, and if they didn't enter you there, they entered you from the choices you made based on your childhood emotions. And now you're an adult, you've got all of these different emotions inside of you, and God doesn't say, I'm not going to love you, Serge, because you've got all those different things, you know. You're really sad and I don't love you anymore because of it. God's not like that, right? But we are like that with ourselves. That's the issue. Now what we've got to do is get through this process to the point where we're actually happy to see what we are ourselves. And we're happy to see ourselves, the real person in the mirror. We're happy to see that person. And we don't judge that person anymore. We just want the person to heal. We just want the person to get to a place where they're in a place of love. And so I can look at my sadness now, and by the way, it took me many years to get to this place where I could look at my sadness without judging my sadness. Because what I started realizing myself is that every time I judged my sadness, it created two more emotions for me to deal with. Firstly, it created a law of compensation emotion because of me treating myself unlovingly. And secondly, the act of judgment came from a different emotion generally, like something to do with judgment from my family or my friends or whatever about sadness. And I had to deal with that. And then when I let go of that, I allowed myself to see my sadness without judgment. In fact, I allowed myself to see my sadness with compassion. I was actually felt a feeling of compassion towards myself for being sad, instead of feeling like I wanted to hit myself in the jaw for being sad, you know. So instead of feeling judgment towards myself about sadness, I felt compassion for the sadness. Now when you start feeling that, you will also start feeling God's compassion for your sadness. And the beauty of God's compassion is it enters you as a part of her love entering you, and you start changing quite rapidly after that, and you start feeling happy about what you see. So the key thing to bear in mind is if you're feeling sad about what you're seeing, and you're feeling like you're making 2 steps forward and then 3 backwards, right? So you're going up once, up twice, and then boom, 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 and then up once, up twice, and boom, boom, boom. Like this is how it feels. 2 more up and boom, 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 down. And eventually you feel like now I'm down in the hills. The truth is that your soul was possibly there in the first place. We're now just seeing it for the first time, and we can love ourselves in that condition. We can actually not have judgment about that condition. We can actually say, all right, now I'm seeing myself as God sees me. Now I'm looking in the mirror, and instead of expecting to see this beautiful character, I'm seeing all of my flaws and all of my failings and all of my problems and all of my unhealed emotions. And I can smile for the first time because I'm being real. Now I'm being real. And the beauty of that is now, because I can see them, I now have the capacity to change them. You see, if I can't see them, how can I change them? If I don't know what's there, how can I fix it? Right? See, for most of us, it's like there's this pile of crap, let me use more vulgar parlance. There's a pile of shit in the corner of our room, for most of us, and what we do is we walk around it saying it smells nice. That's what we do. And when we look at another person's pile of shit, we walk around that and say, yours smells nice too. That's what we do. Because we want to have everyone feel good, right? Including ourselves. But when we're on the divine love path, we look at that pile of shit and we say, that's a pile of shit, eh? In other words, for the first time in our lives, we say, that's what it really is, right? For the first time, we say, wow, that's a pile of shit. Now, instead of now judging it, we're willing to get out the shovel and turn it into manure for our garden, right? That's what we're willing to do. right, for the first time in our lives. And once we get into that place where we don't judge the pile of shit that's in the corner, and we actually look at the fact that we're now turning ourselves into this beautiful thing that can grow, now we can look at all of these things that are within us without feeling like we're going backwards all the time. You'll actually start feeling like you're going forwards. The truth is, on the planet today, your soul can degrade in its condition. And in fact, when people start as children, they often degrade from that condition. So they enter the womb in a 6-sphere condition. By the time they exit the womb, they're usually in a 2nd sphere condition. And by the time they're 2 or 3 years of age, they're in a 1st sphere condition along with their parents. Generally, that's the way it is in terms of our digression, if you like, in terms of spiritual progress. The truth is that we can reverse that condition, but only by coming to see the truth of what we are without judgment. As soon as you judge it, as soon as you have a feeling of self-punishment about what's there, you're actually now locking yourself up so much, and you're doing the additional thing of being unloving to yourself. And one of the primary things we need to learn on the divine love path is how to be loving to myself. And once I learn that, I see these things in me and I go, wow, I'm a bit of a mess this morning. It's like getting up in the morning and looking in the mirror, right? And all of a sudden you see all the lines, from the heavy night before. And when you think about it, what we're doing is we're looking in the mirror emotionally and we're seeing all this damage from our heavy life. So it's a bit like looking at the mirror after a heavy night, bloodshot eyes and look a mess and the hair's everywhere and everything's a mess and, a bit of snot dribbling out maybe and, a bit of blood on our cheek from somebody, I don't know who that was from, and you know what I mean? Like, there's this mess that's reflected back and I can say, yeah, that's a mess now. And what we don't say to that mirror generally in the morning in our physical life, we don't go, gee, you're a mess. Oh, what's the point of dealing with any of that? I might as well just go and bawl about it for the rest of my life. We don't do that. What we do when we look at that mirror, we say, wow, I think I need a shower and I need to have a shave. And in other words, we go in clean-up mode, do we not? Well, that's what we need to do with our soul. Instead of judging it, we need to say, all right, I see all of these things inside of ourselves, inside of myself, but I can go into clean-up mode here. I have the tools available to me to show me how I can release these emotions from me, how I can actually deal with them all. And when I allow myself to release all of those, I can look in the mirror again and say, wow, that sadness, that's hardly there anymore. And you know how I was afraid of all those people when I went down the shopping centre? Yeah, that's not there anymore. And now I can get up and talk in front of 1,000 people, right? That's another fear that I can tick off the list. And every time my mother tries to shame me now, I can say, no worries, Mum, you can feel I'm that way, but I'm fine with it. So I don't feel that shame anymore. And you'll start actually seeing the changes in yourself. And to be frank, you probably won't see them first. The people around you will probably see them first, and then you will start noticing the comments that they're making to you of how much you've changed. You see, you look at your face every morning in the mirror, and emotionally, you look at it yourself every moment. Right? But they might see you today and then 2 weeks later. So they'll be able to have a very, very different feeling about the changes that you've made compared to yourself. So allow yourself to see yourself as you truly are, without the judgment and without the harsh criticism and without the self-punishment. Let yourself see yourself as you truly are and say, I can change this. We've got the skills to do this. We've got the skills to change this. And instead of then making 2 steps up, 3 back, you'll make 2 step up and 1 back. You know what I mean? Like, there'll be times when you go backwards, but you'll make progress. Every time you punish yourself, every time you treat yourself harshly, every time you're very self-critical and all of those kind of things, you're just adding to your own burden. And you don't need to. God is not like that with you. Like, God's not there with a cracking the whip up there going like, and I say up there in terms of a terminology, going at you saying, yeah, you're a terrible person. Yeah, I saw you today. You were so afraid. I think I need to punish you for that as well. And so every time I punish myself for being afraid, can you see I am actually in direct disharmony with what God's opinion of me is in that moment. right? And as a result of that, I'll feel the pain of that, obviously. And when I bring myself into harmony with God's opinion of me, which is God loves me no matter what my condition is, and when I can feel the wondrousness of that, I will actually no longer continue this cycle of self-judgment. And for myself and for Mary, it's been the self-punishing cycles, isn't it, darling, that have been the most difficult to get out of. And they are also the most distressing situations that you get into. But if you can start seeing yourself as you truly are without the desire to punish yourself for being that person, then you will grow very, very rapidly.
Thank you.